Okay, so today we're going to dive into something super practical
Okay.
that I think will resonate with like almost everyone listening.
Right.
Common English phrases.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to look at it specifically through the lens of this really interesting source we have called Learn English in 30 Days with AI.
Okay, cool.
Um, and we're specifically looking at episode 2 of that.
Episode 2.
And the reason I thought this would be such a great source to kind of dig into is because it really focuses on like the building blocks
Yeah.
of
Oh,
everyday interactions, like
yeah.
being polite, asking for help, small talk, ordering food.
Right.
So really practical stuff that we can all relate to, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, the kind of things that you need to know, even at a basic level, to just kind of function, in an English-speaking environment.
Right, exactly.
And, for people who are learning English or even for native speakers who just want to kind of brush up on, the nuances of politeness and things like that,
Okay.
it's a great place to start.
Right. And I think it's easy to overlook those things.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're a native English speaker, you kind of take them for granted.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're really important for making a good impression
Yeah.
and coming across as someone who's, polite and respectful.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's start with the basics.
Okay.
The most basic building blocks of politeness, which are those key phrases
Right.
like, excuse me, please, thank you, you're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this episode kind of breaks them down.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
And, I think it's worth pointing out that these phrases,
Yeah.
they're not just about being polite.
Right.
They're about acknowledging other people,
Yeah, they're about respect, right?
Yeah,
Recognizing other people's presence and space and needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so, for example, the episode gives this example.
Yeah.
Imagine you accidentally step on someone's foot.
Okay.
A natural reaction would be to say, oh, I'm sorry.
Right. Right.
And then the other person would probably say something like, it's okay,
Yeah.
right? Just to kind of smooth things over.
Yeah. It just diffuses the situation immediately.
Right, exactly.
And it shows that you're, aware of what you did and that you care.
Yeah.
Even if it was an accident.
Right.
Huh.
And then another example they give is someone holding a door open for you.
Right.
And you would say, thank you. And they would say, you're welcome.
Exactly. Yeah.
And again, it's just a small gesture.
Right.
But it shows that you appreciate their effort.
It acknowledges the kindness.
Right. And it creates that little moment of connection.
Yeah. And those little moments, they add up,
Right. They really do.
They create a more positive atmosphere overall.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
So those are just like the super basic courtesy phrases.
Okay.
But then the episode goes on to talk about some other really useful phrases.
Yeah.
Particularly for situations where you need help.
Okay. Right.
And they highlight a few key ones like, can you help me, please? I don't understand. Can you explain?
Mm-hmm.
Could you repeat that, please?
Right.
And I love this one. Where is the restroom?
Oh, yeah. That's essential.
That's essential. Yeah.
Especially when you're traveling or in a new place.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And they give this example of a dialogue
Oh, okay.
where someone needs help finding a coffee shop.
Okay.
And they start by saying, excuse me, can you help me?
Right. Very polite.
Very polite, right?
Establishing that connection.
Yeah. The other person says, of course. What do you need?
Right. Helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
And then the person says, where is the nearest coffee shop?
Okay, good.
And they get a direct answer. It's just around the corner.
Perfect. Love it.
Right.
Yeah. So what we're seeing here is a really good example of how to ask for help
Right.
in a way that's clear and polite.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because sometimes when we need help, we can feel a little bit, embarrassed or shy about asking.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But it's so important to just be direct
Yeah.
and to use those polite phrases because it really does make a difference.
Right. It shows that you respect the other person's time.
Yeah, exactly.
And that you're not just demanding their help.
Right.
You're asking for it.
Yeah, you're asking nicely.
Right.
And that makes people much more likely to want to help you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think especially for people who are learning English,
Yeah.
these phrases can be really empowering
Oh, absolutely.
because they give you the tools to communicate your needs,
Yeah.
even if you don't have a huge vocabulary.
Right. Even if your grammar isn't perfect.
Right.
Just knowing those key phrases can really help you get by.
Yeah, for sure.
And build your confidence as you go.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about courtesy.
Yes.
We've talked about asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
What about making small talk?
Okay. Yeah. Small talk.
This is where it gets a little bit more personal.
Right. A little bit more social.
Right.
And sometimes people kind of dread small talk,
Yeah, they see it as superficial.
Yeah, they think it's pointless.
Right.
But I actually think it's really important.
Me too.
It's a way to kind of break the ice,
Uh,
to connect with people,
yeah,
to find common ground.
yeah. And you never know where it might lead.
Right, exactly. You could end up having a really deep conversation with
Yeah.
someone that you just started talking to about the weather.
Right, or their weekend plans.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so the episode gives some examples of good small talk starters,
Oh, okay. What are they?
like how's your day going?
That's a classic.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you do for work?
Okay. A little bit more direct, but still appropriate.
Right, in certain contexts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Um, do you have any hobbies?
Oh, I love that one. That's a good way to find out about people's passions.
Yeah, and maybe find some shared interests.
Yeah, exactly.
And then just a simple observation about the weather, like, it's a nice day, isn't it?
Right? Keeps it light and easy.
Right, exactly. And then they give an example of a little small talk exchange.
Oh, okay.
It starts with someone saying, hey, Emma, how's your day going?
Okay, casual.
Casuals, right?
Yeah.
And Emma says, it's going great, thanks. What about you?
Nice, polite.
Right? Polite, engaging.
Yeah.
And then the person says, I'm doing well, too. Do you have any fun plans for the weekend?
Okay, classic weekend plans.
Right. And then Emma says, yes, I'm going hiking. How about you?
Oh, nice. Love that.
Right. So it's just a very simple exchange.
Yeah.
But it shows how you can use those open-ended questions
Right.
to keep the conversation flowing.
Yeah, to get people talking, to learn a little bit more about them.
Right. And maybe even find some things in common.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's how relationships start,
Exactly.
That's how friendships are formed. That's how business connections are made.
Yeah.
It all starts with that initial spark of connection.
Right. Those seemingly insignificant interactions.
Right. Exactly.
And I think it's also worth pointing out that the amount of small talk that's appropriate can vary depending on the context.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Different cultures have different norms.
Yeah.
In some cultures, it's considered rude to just jump straight into business.
Right.
You have to spend some time, building rapport first.
Yeah.
And that can involve a lot of small talk. Whereas in other cultures, it's more acceptable to be more direct.
Yeah. So it's always good to be aware of those cultural differences.
Yes, for sure.
And to kind of read the room.
Right. Pay attention to the other person's cues.
Yeah.
Are they engaged in the conversation? Are they giving you short answers?
Right.
Just kind of be sensitive to those things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to another very practical area of life.
Okay.
Ordering food.
Yes, love it.
Right. This is something
Everyone's got to eat.
everyone's got to eat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this episode provides some really essential phrases you can use in a restaurant or a cafe.
Yeah, what are some of them?
So things like, I'd like a coffee, please.
Okay. Simple, but effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I have the menu, please?
Okay,
I
cool.
can take the burger with fries.
Nice.
Could I get the check, please?
Okay, good.
So really just the basics.
Yeah, the essentials.
Right.
But that's what you need,
Yeah.
When you're in a restaurant, you don't need to be giving a big, long speech. You
Right.
just need to be able to communicate your needs clearly.
Yeah. And politely.
And politely, yes.
And they even provide a little role play dialogue
Oh, okay.
to show how these phrases might be used in a real life situation.
Yeah. What's the scenario?
It's a cafe scenario.
Okay. I like cafes.
Yeah. And it starts with the barista or the server saying, welcome. What would you like to order?
Okay, friendly.
Friendly, right?
Yeah.
And the customer says, I'd like a cappuccino, please.
Oh, nice, specific.
Right. Specific. And then the server says, would you like anything to eat?
Okay. Good upselling.
Right. Upselling.
Yeah.
And the customer says, yes, I'll have a sandwich.
Perfect. Good choice.
Right. Good choice.
Yeah.
And then the server tells them the total they pay.
Mm.
And then the server says, enjoy your meal.
Mm.
Nice.
So a very smooth transaction.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's worth noting
Yeah.
that the language here is very direct,
Right.
but it's also polite.
Yeah.
Right. They're using please. They're using thank you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's a good balance to strike.
Yeah, for
You know, you want to be clear about what you want,
Right.
but you also want to be respectful of the person who's serving you.
Right. It's a two-way street,
Exactly.
And those little courtesies that go a long way.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
So to kind of wrap things up,
Okay.
we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've looked at some really fundamental English phrases for showing courtesy,
Yeah.
asking for help, making small talk, and ordering food.
Right.
And all of this is based on the insights from Learn English in 30 Days with AI,
That's right.
which I think is a really fantastic resource.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really great approach.
Yeah.
Um, it's practical. It's focused on everyday situations.
Yeah.
And it's using AI, which is, really innovative.
Yeah. And it's accessible.
Yeah, it is.
And so I guess the takeaway here
Yeah.
is that these phrases aren't just random words.
Right.
They're tools
Yeah.
that can help you communicate more
Yeah.
effectively
Yeah.
and build confidence in English-speaking situations.
For sure. And it's not just about learning the phrases. It's
Right.
about understanding the context in which they're used.
Right.
When is it appropriate to use a certain phrase?
Right.
How do you adjust your language based on the situation?
Right.
Those are all important things to consider.
Yeah, for sure. And so now here's a thought for you to kind of chew on.
Okay.
The episode that we were looking at mentioned the availability of AI tools
Right.
like Google Translate and ChatGPT.
Yes.
And I think it's really interesting to think about
Yeah.
how you could use those tools
Mm-hmm.
to personalize your practice
Okay.
with these common English phrases,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
right?
Yeah.
So think about specific scenarios in your own life.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a hobby group that you're part of,
Mm-hmm.
or a work environment,
Right.
or even just online interactions.
Yeah.
And think about how you could use AI
Mm-hmm.
to kind of pre-plan
Mm-hmm.
some of the language that you might need.
Right. Like create some scripts or practice some dialogue.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that could be a really powerful way to kind of bridge the gap between learning the phrases and
Right.
actually using them in real life.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway.
And we'll leave it there for today.
Okay, sounds good.
But thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later. Bye.